Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel NewsX USA. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today we're going to discuss a dramatic and deeply concerning development, the moment when Ukraine effectively brought the war to Moscow and high-rise skyscrapers there were hit hard. It's an episode with multiple layers, military, political, humanitarian, and I'll walk you through each of them carefully. Let's begin by looking at the exterior of the event, the visuals, what happened on the ground in Moscow. On the outside, the skyline of Moscow, once considered almost invulnerable and secure, was suddenly shown to be exposed. Tall office towers, clusters of residential high-rises, city lights glimmering, all bore witness to a new front, not just in the Far East or the border areas, but deep in Russian territory. Drones, missiles, or other long-range weapons penetrated into what had been considered a safe zone. Witness footage shows duskton, gray skies, drone shadows crossing the horizon, sirens echoing through neighborhoods, and the sudden blast of explosions near major high-rise buildings. Windows shattered, facades cracked, emergency lighting activated, firefighters arriving, smoke curling up alongside steel and glass towers. A cityscape, once projecting power, now suddenly revealed vulnerability. Streets and boulevards near the damaged scenes were cordoned off, shoppers, commuters, residents evacuated or standing in shock. The exterior environment of Moscow changed from calm, controlled, routine to disrupted, uneasy, alert. Lighted towers that had symbolized prestige now stood half in darkness, some with broken glass, some with structural damage. Onlookers, captured on video, pointed upward, alarms blared. The damage to skyscrapers became a symbol not just of physical destruction, but of psychological impact. When the core of Russia feels the war at its doorstep, the dynamic shifts. It is not just about front lines anymore. It becomes urban, metropolitan, close to civilians, visible to the world in real time. That external environment, Moscow's skyline, its towers, its glass and steel, shifted overnight from seeming fortress to exposed target. That visible change is one of the key dramatic aspects of this story. Now let's move inside and examine the interior, the human, the residential, the lived experience, the damage inside buildings, how people saw this from within, how normal life was disrupted. This interior part is crucial because often we talk about strikes and infrastructure, but we forget how individuals in offices or apartments experienced it. Imagine a high-rise residential building in one of Moscow's central districts. In the living room, someone is watching TV, the children doing homework, dinner being prepared. Suddenly the power flickers, a low rumble, then shockwave. Glass shakes, windows crack, plaster falls, the chandelier swings, the floor vibrates. In the corridor, neighbors are frozen, some crying, some in panic. Emergency lights come on, elevators go offline, people in upper floors have to climb stairs, fire alarms, sprinklers, etc. In many cases, the interior damage to apartments means shattered windows, broken doors, damaged furniture, water damage from firefighting efforts, smoke seeping into hallways. Offices in skyscrapers, workers in open, planned spaces are jolted from their seats, monitors flicker off, alarms flash, and evacuation begins. Conference rooms, boardrooms, executive offices, floor-to-ceiling glass provides views of city lights and suddenly becomes hazard, shattered glass, falling debris, risk of glass slivers. The interiors become zones of confusion and threat. For residents, the sense of home is shaken. Safe indoors now feels unsafe. Hallways once calm now echo with emergency boots, the smell of smoke, the hiss of automatic systems. Night becomes darker when windows burst and blackout occurs. The familiar hum of city life is replaced by sirens and helicopter blades overhead. For office workers, the routine of going to work in a modern tower becomes a potential risk of being caught in a strike. Evacuation protocols activated, fire doors closing, stairwells crowded. Beyond physical damage, there's psychological trauma. Children waking up to explosions, parents rushing to stairwells, elderly people unable to descend, people trapped by elevator shutdowns. The interiors of these skyscrapers are microcosms of the city's vulnerability. A striking apartment, a shattered pane, a flickering light, a firefighter stepping into lobby smoke. They all tell the story of war intruding into civilian, everyday spaces. Furthermore, interior infrastructures, power, water supply, HVAC, elevators are disrupted. A tower may lose running water, internet goes offline, heating systems shut down, people find themselves confined to damaged floors or evacuated altogether. Businesses inside may lose entire server rooms, data centers, client meetings canceled, costs mount. When high-rise buildings are hit, the interior damage is not just structural, there's business disruption, employment interruption, personal trauma. So this interior segment underscores that war is not just a distant spectacle, but affects people inside their homes and offices. And in the case of Moscow's towers, although the primary targets may have been strategic or symbolic, the collateral effects fall upon normal civilians and commercial users alike. That interior dimension is critical to understanding the full gravity of what happened. Moving on to performance. In the usual sense, performance may refer to the efficiency of defense, the readiness of systems, how well air defenses and building protections held up. Here, performance relates to how Moscow's protective systems performed when the attack occurred. According to reports, Moscow's air defense network scrambled jets, surfaced, wear missiles, electronic warfare platforms to intercept incoming drones or missiles. For example, earlier reports show Moscow faced large drone attacks with dozens of drones intercepted or jammed. The performance of these systems, while impressive in some respects, many drones did not reach their targets, still allowed certain strikes to penetrate and damage high-rise buildings. So the performance of national defense and of building resilience proved to be tested. Some towers are built with reinforced facades, blast-resistant glass, emergency stairwells, backup generators. But when the exterior envelope is struck, the performance of those safety systems is judged. In many instances, the buildings held up partially. They did not collapse, but significant damage occurred, such as shattered windows, damaged interiors. The performance of evacuation protocols, firefighting response, medical response also comes into play. Were people evacuated smoothly? Were fire suppression systems effective? Reports suggest disruptions and confusion, meaning the performance of preparedness was less than perfect. The performance of Moscow's corporate offices and residential towers to continue operating under such stress also degraded. Many businesses shut for the day, lifts out of service, tenants relocated temporarily. So in performance terms, this episode shows both the resilience of systems that prevented catastrophic collapse and the vulnerabilities in systems that allowed damage and civilian impact. It becomes a performance test of infrastructure under wartime conditions. Also, performance of media and public communications. Authorities in Moscow scrambled to deny or downplay damage, to maintain order and assurance, but social media videos circulated quickly showing real damage. That turnover of information is part of the performance of modern warfare in urban spaces. In sum, the performance dimension reveals a mixed picture. Some elements worked, but the strike exposed gaps and raised questions about the readiness and endurance of infrastructure, defense, and city operations under direct attack. Next, we examine safety features, or in other words, what protection measures exist in such skyscrapers and urban infrastructure, and how effective they were or were not in this context. In modern high-rise buildings in major cities like Moscow, Safety features often include blast-resistant facade materials, laminated safety glass,